I know you know something about this, Porter. What the fuck is going on? How did this happen? I can't speak to you right now. Like hell you can't. I need to know what's going on. You need to not know what's going on. For your own sake. I can explain eventually, but not right now. That's not good enough. I'm not an idiot, Porter. You started that fight with me to give yourself an alibi. Give me one reason why I shouldn't just expose you to this entire summit. Because William ordered me to be here. He's the only reason I'm back in town. I didn't come willingly. I came at his request. Why would he do that? You've said it yourself. You're not an idiot. So put it together. It wasn't just my alibi I was arranging. We'll talk later. For now, just remember that the Solairs stand together. Act like it. Alexis.
Yes?
What the hell are we supposed to do?
Don't you mean what are you supposed to do?
Don't do this right now, Alexis. Please, I need your help.
A vampire king is dead. Someone here did it. We need to find out who did it and resolve the situation.
This isn't a game of Clue, Alexis. This is a monarchical summit. Alexander Bennett is dead. If this goes south, it could start a war between the houses.
Don't be melodramatic, Vincent. It'll give you wrinkles.
Did you have something to do with this?
Now isn't really the time to be questioning allies, is it?
Lex.
I didn't kill him. Now relax. We have work to do.
Sweetheart. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, I thought the worst might happen. Are you alright? Oh, hey. Oh, thank God you're okay. What the hell is happening? Sweetheart, were you there? Did you see it? Oh, shit. Oh, come here. Oh, God, I'm just so fucking relieved to safe. I gotta tell David before whatever is about to happen. Babe, can you stay here with them? I'll be right back. David! Ash, what the hell is happening? We heard a scream from the negotiating room. The king of the House of Bennett is dead. What? Milo's mate is okay. They were listening in on him and the Bennett prince arguing, and it was getting pretty heated, but there was some kind of commotion outside the door of the room, and they felt something push them magically away at the same time. Christopher went to go check out the noise, so Milo's mate phased out of the room the other way. By the time they made it back out to me and Milo, somebody had found the king dead. They didn't see who did it. No, but David... Porter was right. They really are in deep with close-knit. And they had something to do with the inversion. Alright. We'll figure out what to do with that. But first, we need to make it through tonight. If anyone finds out Milo's mate was in that room right before the king ended up dead, they were phased the whole time. There shouldn't be any trace of them. The only person other than us who knows what they did is Porter. Or at least he'll probably assume that we followed his tip. A tip that put them right in the firing line of an assassination. I think we need to have a talk with Porter Solaire. You're the alpha. You need to be the face for us out there right now. I can take care of Porter. You sure? I promise. Alright. I need to get out in front of this. Keep me in the loop. Porter, I need to talk to you. Get in line. It's a busy night to be me. You knew something was going to happen. What the fuck were you trying to do? Set up someone to take the fall by having Milo's mate in the room? Hardly. I can't talk about this. I'm needed in the dining hall. I sent a member of my pack into that room on your advice. Advice that could have gotten them killed, and now might get them implicated in a murder. That's all well and good, but I don't really have time to spare on the plucky sidekick right about now, so if you'll excuse me. You're about to see how plucky I am when your throat is between my teeth. You don't fuck with my family, Solaire. How exactly do you think fighting a vampire in the middle of the summit is going to go for you? At this point, I think it'd earn me a round of applause. Now talk. I told you the truth. Your pack wanted answers. I needed the department to understand the gravity of what the House of Bennett and Close-Knit did. It was win-win. What does the department have to do with anything? Greer's mate is a department investigator. Close-Knit is incredibly well insulated. The department can hardly touch them on anything, but it's fueled by other groups, other institutions, ones the department can hurt. The House of Bennett is one of them. One of the biggest. Now someone in the department has heard firsthand how deeply involved they are and can do something about it. What makes you think one recording is gonna make the department actually get up and do something? It's barely a step above hearsay. The Bennetts didn't say anything specific enough to actually indict them. Well, I was hoping that they would. They insisted the room be magically insulated. I assumed that meant they would speak freely enough for your friend to get some real evidence. As it stands, what they got is at least a driving force to dig deeper. They didn't need to put their life on the line for what amounts to a point in the right direction. Why didn't you just say something? What do you think I've been doing? To call out the House of Bennett to their face about Close-Knit and the inversion would start a war between the houses, one that none of us, vampire or otherwise, can abide. We've been telling the department about it anonymously, but they don't act. We don't have concrete evidence. We need them to investigate and get it. But that's the dirty little secret about our government. As an entity, it's toothless. Only individuals within it actually make change happen, and they usually have to go outside of the department's jurisdiction to do so. I hoped your pack member might be that. Why didn't you just tell them that the House of Bennett had a hand in the inversion? I did. You were standing right there. But I correctly assumed that they wouldn't just take me at my word. So I told you all where you might get some evidence firsthand. Evidence that your pack and I both needed. I made no illusions that it would be safe. I put too much faith in them loosening their lips behind closed doors. That is on me, I'll give you that. But you all made the choice to put your hand in the fire, and now you're furious with me because you almost got burned. You knew more about this. This isn't just some coincidence. Don't try to spin your way out of this. I'm not spinning anything. Listen to me, and listen closely, because I won't be repeating this. You wanted proof. I wanted you to have proof. I organized a way for you to get it. I didn't send your friend in there as a sacrificial lamb abandoned to the cause. I was there too. What limited capacity I could manage. Who do you think caused that commotion to give them an easy way out? Who do you think gave them that nudge? We need to go to the dining hall before we're missed. And I would suggest that neither of our groups discusses having been there so close to the time of death, because between the timing and the opportunity that opens for motive, that wouldn't look good for either of us, or indeed, both of us, together. I do not trust you. Well, luckily, it doesn't really matter who you trust right now. Let's go. We have to call the department. They need to come investigate this. Not quite, Mr. Shaw. That's not how we handle things. What do you mean? There's been a murder. The department has to be informed.
They will be, after a ruling has been made and dispensed.
Sanguis primus. Blood first. We operate our own judiciary, of a sort. If we find a vampiric transgression first, we have authority to rule over it by our own laws first, then report it to the department. And if the department finds it first, we have the authority to give our own ruling after the fact. It's our way. How do you have that kind of exception to the law?
Because it was our condition for allowing the department to rule over us at all. We were there at its formation. We demanded special dispensation in order to allow that formation to occur.
Then how is this ruling carried out? You take a vote? This issue crosses houses. By our laws, it calls for an arbiter. And who the hell is that supposed to be? The arbiter should be the department. Anybody here could have been involved. There's no way to know who would actually be impartial. Custom would leave the role of arbiter to the monarch of the longest-standing house present, provided they pass a vote of confidence, which in this case would be you, Monarch Baz.
Color me thrilled. I came here for a party, not to be appointed an impromptu judge. I've already spent most of my night haggling with a werewolf alpha. Now I don't even get to spend its second half enjoying myself. Very well. If this is going to ruin my night, let's get to it. I call for a vote of confidence in my ability to arbitrate this issue. House of Bennett, you're the begrieved party here. Your votes are weighted accordingly.
We trust the House of Baz to rule on this.
Then, all in confidence, raise your hand.
Do we get a vote? Do I look like a vampire? How the hell should I know?
All in defiance, raise yours. Then the ayes have it. I stand as your arbiter. Let's get this done, shall we? I haven't lived this long by making a habit of wasting my time. I don't suppose someone just wants to confess and save us all the headache? Oh, of course not. Zane, Ephraim, you two have the best handle over magic. Investigate the scene.
One of our guests from the Shaw Pack is a department investigator. They're trained for this sort of thing.
For all points and purposes, the House of Shaw is considered a direct ally to the House of Solaire. And seeing as this murder happened on your house's watch, on your house's property, in a room that your house arranged for Alexander to be in, I believe it's best that all of you remain apart from the investigation itself, until you're exonerated, or convicted. Time will tell. Who found the body?
I did. Although I didn't make a spectacle of it when I did, unlike some people.
And what did you find?
A pile of bones, obviously.
How the hell were they already bones? When a vampire dies, their body turns to ash within about a minute. Only the bones are left.
Considering his skull was halfway across the room, I'm assuming he was beheaded. That, or someone played an impromptu game of soccer with the Good King's skeleton after the fact.
That's my house's former king you're talking about. Show a little respect.
Were you showing respect earlier tonight when you said you wished he'd go for a long walk in the sun and make room for someone who could actually lead?
I said nothing of the sort.
Oh, please. You spent the entire beginning of the evening whining to me about him, asking for advice about how to deal with an infuriating maker. You're the reason I went into that room and found him in the first place.
How so?
Apparently, Christopher wanted backup in some argument he planned to have with his king. By the time I made my way into the room, there was just ash and bones left.
I didn't want backup, and I didn't want an argument. I wanted him to hear another perspective, one from a house that's done well adapting modern strategies. I would have much rather had William be the one to help, but he's conspicuously absent.
Alexis, get on with it. You found the body. Then what?
I opened the door and saw what was left of him. I knew better than to touch any of it or to step in the room. I went to tell Vincent, seeing as he's the host of this little gathering, and as I did, someone else found the body and decided to do a turn in amateur theater as a result.
Where were you, Christopher?
I stepped outside for some fresh air. I was under the impression Alexander and I were going to have a calm conversation about house business, but he was already well agitated before I met him in the meeting room. We spoke for a while, but the conversation wasn't going anywhere. We heard a ruckus outside, and after we checked to see what it might have been, it was clear that we weren't going to make any progress on our talk. So I asked to take my leave. He agreed. I left, and that was the last I saw of him. I'd barely even made it to the porch before I heard the scream.
And what was he agitated about?
He didn't say. Are we really meant to gloss over the fact that Alexis Soler, one of our hosts, supposedly found my king's body and didn't feel the need to tell anyone other than her fellow progeny?
I was out in the hall talking to the House of Rebane when the murder would have taken place. You can ask any of them. So if you have something to say, Prince, just say it.
No one else finds it a little convenient that the king of the House of Soler isn't in attendance tonight. The night that a fellow king is slain under his roof? What alibi is more bulletproof than being halfway across the country?
By all means, Christopher, don't beat around the bush. Go on.
I don't buy your flippant routine, Alexis. I think you're covering for family, or for yourself. I think your king ordered the death of mine, and I don't know which of you did it, but we'll find out.
The House of Soler doesn't need to kill to get what they want. I wish I could say the same about the House of Bennett.
Bullshit, Vincent. We already all know you killed the last person that got in your way. Who's to say you didn't see an opportunity to prove yourself to your king? Destabilizing one of the most powerful houses in the region would make things much smoother for William, wouldn't you say?
Adam Jessup was a sadistic freak who had been torturing my partner for almost 24 hours straight when I found him and ended him. He didn't get in my way. He was a disgusting monster who thrived on others' pain. More to the point, Jessup had violated Vincent's claim. By our laws, he had every right to end him. And if we start going down the line, pointing out each other's body count, we're going to be here all night. Vincent's was at least above board. That's more than can be said for most of them, yours included, Christopher.
And what about you, Porter? Pretty convenient timing for the prodigal son to return.
Well, I realized I'd left the stove on 4 years ago when I left. I needed to come check on it.
The death of my king is not a joke.
No, but you're acting like one. Stabbing in the dark at everyone you can. Deflect a little harder, why don't you?
Enough. As long as you're feeling talkative, Porter, where were you when Alexander was killed?
Well, seeing as we've yet to establish when exactly he was killed, that's a little hard to say. But I'd been having a discussion with my fellow Soler and his partner for quite some time before we heard the screaming. Before that, I was trading hors d'oeuvre horror stories with the Shaw pack at the refreshment table.
quite some time isn't exactly precise, Solaire.
Well, my apologies, Your Majesty, but my internal chronometer is still in the shop. I don't make a habit of clocking in for my fights with Vincent. I don't know when exactly it started.
So we have Christopher apparently alone on the porch with no one to verify it, the Solaire boys breaking into a public fight that may have happened during the murder, or may have been after it, Alexis saying she didn't reach the scene until it was already done, and an entire mansion of other vampires that could have been involved instead. Vampire bodies ash as soon as they're killed, leaving us with very little in the way of actual evidence. How delightfully clear-cut. I commend you all on making this a terrible night for me.
The House of Solaire has no history of animosity with the House of Bennett. If the simple act of being the hosts of the summit puts us at an even level of suspicion with the prince who had everything to gain from Alexander's death, I fail to see that connection. You fought with Alexander all night. You became king with his death. And we've all seen how easily you fly off the handle. The House of Solaire gains no more from the destabilization of your clan than any of the other houses here do. Your territory isn't even anywhere near ours. The House of Right are the ones you're forever disputing borders with.
We found something, Majesty.
A moment.
Alexander was over 200 years old and turned by old blood. I'm not too proud to admit that even if I'd wanted to, I wouldn't have been strong or fast enough to overpower him and behead him. He would have turned me to ash before I could so much as grab a hold of him, especially if this supposed argument between us that you've all invented was as severe as you suggest. He'd be on high alert. There's no way I could have done what you're suggesting.
I'd be inclined to agree with you if it was a simple matter of beheading, but it seems there's more to the story, namely this.
A glorified letter opener?
I believe you'll find it's far more than that. It's been laced with demon blood. There are still traces of it on the blade.
What does demon blood have to do with anything?
It's functionally a poison to vampires. It's pure magic. We're able to metabolize a small amount of consumed magic. It's what allows us to feed on empowered humans. But if we were to drink too much, the effects go from intoxicating to debilitating. Demon blood takes that principle to its most extreme.
If a vampire tried to feed on a demon, it would kill them. If the demon didn't kill them first. I knew you guys didn't like sunlight. I'd never heard of that.
Shockingly, we don't make a habit of broadcasting our weaknesses, pup. Back to the point. A quick stab from this blade would have left Alexander incapable of defending himself from a killing blow. It's a great equalizer. As long as someone could get close enough to stick him, killing him would be a simple task, regardless of strength or speed.
Then why doesn't this happen more often?
Vincent, do me a favor. Next time you inadvertently shoehorn me into being judge, jury, and executioner, keep the guest list to vampires so I don't have to explain the obvious at every turn, would you? The reason this doesn't happen more often, Mr. Shaw, would become clear fairly quickly if you were to ask a demon for their blood. They're not exactly in any rush to provide it. It's not really blood at all. Demons are magic, taking physical form. Their blood is part of that magic, part of that unified form. To be without it is to be fragmented, weakened. And that's anathema to most demons.
It also has a very short half-life. The longer it's away from the demon it came from, the more it degrades out of physical form and back into its natural, non-corporeal state, where it's no good to anyone. So whoever used it had to have gotten it very recently.
Which is no small task, for most people.
Who would it be easy for?
Now it gets fun.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe someone who was in deep with an organization that has had to go on record publicly, stating that they certainly don't secretly capture and interrogate demons as part of their bigoted credo. What do you think, Christopher?
Close-knit has never done anything like that. And I'm not the one who made the decision to align our house with them in the first place anyway. That was Alexander himself.
So, you're suggesting you don't Plan to keep your house aligned with them, now that it's yours to command?
If there was any merit to these absurd claims you're making about them, then of course we would distance ourselves. But there is no merit to them. This is all just propaganda.
You're in the bag with close-knit, and you want to try to call this propaganda? The bodies from the inversion weren't even cold before your friends over there were buying up airtime to use a tragedy as a recruitment event.
This is a vampire affair, dog. Keep your vitriol to yourself before I find you a leash.
Unfortunately for you, Christopher, the wolf has a point. Vampire affair or not.
I was under the impression that this was a murder investigation, not a tribunal about my former king's taste in allies.
Fair enough. Then to get back to the murder investigation, there are no traces of anyone's presence in the room besides yourself and Alexander.
Anyone with a cursory understanding of magic could remove any physical traces of themselves upon leaving. The fact that I didn't shows my innocence, not my guilt.
There was also the knife hidden within that room. By your logic, anyone who had the forethought to erase any trace of their presence from the room would surely have removed the knife as well. But they didn't. It sounds more like something someone left behind in a panic after committing the act. A panic that would have also prevented them from thinking clearly enough to magically remove their traces upon leaving.
Having the forethought to collect demon's blood and bring it to this summit implies a plan, does it not? And yet, leaving that knife behind, covered in said blood, hidden or otherwise, implies someone decidedly not thinking ahead. So if your accusations are to hold any water, which is it? I'm a calculating assassin, vying for my king's position, planning far enough ahead to bring the blood, or I'm an emotional mess who flew off the handle and couldn't clean up his tracks.
You say that like they can't both be true. Big plans that you then fumble when it comes time to actually execute them. Sounds fairly on the nose for your house, if you ask me.
We didn't.
Then let's consider a few facts. Alexander was your king. You two had a notoriously bad relationship, one that was heated enough that even unaffiliated guests tonight heard you two fighting. You were the last person seen with him. You had motive, opportunity, and means. Getting demon blood from your cohorts at close-knit would be an easy task, as would be getting close enough to Alexander to stab him. And with him out of the way, you now rule the House of Bennett as you see fit. You're no longer bound to a maker, and murdering him in a setting this public helps increase the number of suspects and makes it an inter-house affair that calls for a quick resolution. Did I miss anything?
This is insanity. You've turned this into a drumhead trial. Since when is my fate to be decided by the half-assed investigations of your two lackeys and some baseless slander?
Since you agreed my house could rule on this matter. I've heard enough. Christopher Bennett, you've been found as murderer of your maker and king without justification, an act in violation of our laws. Ephraim, do it.
You can't...
Oh my god, shit. Fucking Christ.
Now that that's over with, can we try to salvage at least some part of this evening? Summit comes but once a year, and I've now had my entire time wasted with drudgery.
They just fucking killed him. Right then and there. How the hell did they get away with that? That wasn't a trial, that was an execution. What just happened? The House of Bennett just lost the game. That's vampire justice for you. He had a hand in the inversion. He capitalized on it. I'll settle for some vampire justice in that case.
I suppose there's a line even we can agree on. I need a drink.
Are you alright, lovely? I don't know what to think right now. I can't believe that.
Solaire, and your partner, come here. Your maker should have been the one cleaning up this mess, not me. I suggest you speak to him in that regard. And I suggest you mention that while the House of Baz stands by its ruling, we don't appreciate messes. This was sloppy. Understood?
With all due respect, I don't understand.
Look at me, child. You really don't, do you? That conversation with your king, see that you have it sooner rather than later. Your fellow progeny had it right. I could use a drink after that mess as well.
Majesty, with all due respect, there's just been 2 deaths in the last hour, one of which your progeny is currently still cleaning off the floor. The House of Bennett was one of the most influential houses here before they stepped under this roof, and now they're in shambles. They have no clear line of succession.
Child, this is hardly the first murder at a summit or the first fall of a house. And with any luck, it won't be the last. Take it from someone who's seen it all. Most of them are far more bloody and far less justified. Be grateful, and try to handle it gracefully. This is not a public position, so if you tell anyone I said this, I'll kill you myself. But the House of Baz stands with Solaire. The Bennets crossed the line. We did what needed to be done in retribution for lives lost and to prevent future losses. Now the least you can do is make sure the rest of the evening is amusing as repayment. Be well, both of you.
Lovely. I don't know what to believe anymore. What do you want, Porter? We need to have that talk that I promised you. You need to understand. Come on, both of you. There's a lot to explain.